So, a Facebook friend made an interesting comment this morning. He was basically saying a person can, be fully integrated and healed and still have a real loving relationship with God. Of course, that is as valid as any other understanding or belief, because it's the mind is constantly reconfiguring different structures, different choice points, and so it's all valid. But it piqued my curiosity a little bit. I'm trying to understand this. How do I say it? So, you can be, the way I read it, the way the comment feels to me, is that there is still a disintegrating part in the psyche that because he was essentially saying, you can have a real loving relationship with God, and it doesn't all have to gel down to the self. The fact that this comparison is being made tells me that the psyche has diverted again. And I mean, it is so difficult to comprehend, self and self and self. We hear self, but in our programmed mind, because there is negativity around the self, because we associate it with ego, with an ego that's gone rogue, we're not comfortable placing all of our affection and attention on this self. But I'm not talking about ego. I'm talking about the allness that is the self of God, the I am, right? So let's take this descriptor, this definition for God. God called itself by the name I am, okay? Which is a different way of saying the self. How are you going to have a real loving relationship with I am? Don't call it God, because the mind uses the word God as a diversion to direct away from self, okay? The mind, right there, is trying to create a separation, again, in the consciousness. So when the person deviates away from the self, the I am, the name of God is I am, okay? When a person deviates from that and seeks to have a loving relationship with quote-unquote God, the mind has separated the God energy and sequestered it off from the I am, from the self. There is a dissociation going on in the psyche, because perhaps there are still some shadows surrounding the ego self that creates this discomfort with equating God with the self, because there may be shadowy aspects still. The unconscious part says, well, that can't be God. So I'm going to look for God somewhere else besides myself, besides my I am, okay? That's a diversion in the psyche that's unconsciously created. So the psyche keeps making distinctions and separations and diversions because surely this self is not good enough. This self isn't God. And that's what religion has done. And that's not the fault of religion, that's the fault of the dual mind, the unconscious mind that is responding from the shadow aspect. So something shadowy in you makes you uncomfortable with owning the essence of God, with owning being in loving relationship with God, with yourself, and likes to make God a different object. And that's okay. I'm just stating this to try and bring awareness of how your psyche will splinter off this object of affection called God. It's psychological. Your mind is creating that distinction, and it's okay if that's how you want to experience it. But to me, it does not make sense anymore, because if God is all, including your shadow self, how are you going to have a relationship, loving relationship with God, but not with yourself, right? So, I know it's confusing and complicated to wrap that in words, but in my awareness, with God being everything, to have a loving relationship with God is to have a loving relationship with everything, including yourself, right? There is no higher power, distinct entity, definable entity that we call God that we can have a loving relationship with. As soon as you set that God aspect aside from everything else, including yourself, you have created another separation. And then, as with most people, if you are not worshipping my version of God, then you are doing it wrong, right? That's why I bring it all back to the self, because that is the common denominator that we all share. And in elevating and honoring myself, I am giving you the tool to do that within yourself. There is no competition, because we all share a fragment or fractal of that self. So everybody can be in this divinely selfish love relationship with the self, with the I am, without setting up some kind of imaginary idol, right? Everybody has this essence, this fire, this flame in them and as themselves. So have a loving relationship with that. That is healthy. That is healthy. So yeah, I have a loving relationship with God too, right here. Plus that, of course, extends outward, by being sensitive and respectful and understanding and caring about everyone and everything else as well. So God is all inclusive. God covers everything. So have a loving relationship with everything.